Chuck, and welcome back to another installment of my live stream, Chuck's Captivating Chat. We have the most special show today for you, and I say we because I'm going to be joined with my dear, dear friends, Joyce Pietras of Mystic Soul Insights and Pam from Pamona.Remembers. I love these two ladies so much, and I'm so happy they're here with me because we decided we're going to join forces, do enough material hopefully for all three of our shows, and we're going to do a loving heartfelt tribute to Carol Burnett, who just had her 91st birthday on April 26th. And there's just so many ways we have all been personally affected. Pam is going to talk about how it has affected her as an artist, as an actor, as a human being, as Carol has touched all of us. Joyce did Carol Burnett's astrological chart. We're going to get to that in a bit. And then I just have a whole bunch of stories to tell. Carol Burnett has touched my life since I was a little child in the most profound ways. And I've told these stories, I've posted videos before, but I guess I can never tell enough of it. As a child, she just captured my imagination. I felt like I could dream through her vicariously. I felt almost like a maternal comfort from Carol Burnett. Remember how special it was every week when she would come out on stage and do her question and answer with the audience. And in my opinion, that was one of the most incredible, one of the smartest things she ever did, because we got to see Carol Burnett, the woman, the person that we could all relate to, just nice and normal and earthy, and come out and talk to the audience. We saw the beauty in her soul. We saw her warmth. We saw her love. We saw all of this before she went off and started doing all these outrageous characters like Norma Desmond and Eunice and Zelda and Stella Toddler and Mrs. Wiggins. I can go on and on. Carol Burnett, for me as a child, just symbolized the highest of joy. I was a very bullied kid, didn't have many friends. I was lonely. My mother was very troubled. It was a rough childhood, without going into all of it, but I always looked forward to Saturday night at 10 o'clock. And I could always count on her to lift my spirits so high and make me laugh and laugh and laugh. And I just felt so safe, and I felt so reassured and so comforted by her. And many times during the week, when things would be just so low for me, I would think about those comedy skits, and they would get me laughing. And it was like the fuel that got me through until the next Saturday night at 10 o'clock. And I can remember sometimes I'd watch it with my mother on the big color TV in the living room, but many times, in fact, most of the time, I watched her show on a little 12-inch black and white television in my bedroom. And I remember thinking when I was like 11, 12 years old, and this is when I was growing up in a little town in Virginia, little rural town, middle of nowhere. And I kept thinking, I don't know how I'm going to ever do this, but I've got to meet Carol Burnett. I've just got to meet her. I've got to tell her how much I love her, how much she's kept me going. And then there were times I felt Carol Burnett was literally keeping me alive. You know, it was heavy. It was heavy as a kid. And there were times I didn't know if I could go on or not. I honestly didn't. But she gave me that hope. She gave me that encouragement. I knew watching Carol Burnett, everything was going to be okay one day. I was going to get through this. It was going to get better one day. I always knew that. She instilled that into me almost almost through telepathy, through the television screen. So it was my huge, huge dream to meet her one day. I mean, just not Carol Burnett the star, Carol Burnett the person. I just wanted to tell her what she had done for my life, the difference she had made. And I don't know how I would have gotten through that childhood. You know, the other thing with Carol Burnett, the Eunice character was basically my mother. My mother and Eunice were the same woman, the same Southern accent and the attitude, the whole world is crapping on my head and it's everybody's fault, blah, blah, blah. But my mother even had that hairdo, the curls on top and on the sides. It was spooky. Even as a kid, I thought, how does Carol Burnett know my mother so well? She's playing my mother. And I mean, multi-dimensional in the soul. It wasn't just the cartoon character. She was going deep playing my mother. It was like she had a cord connected to my mother. My mother very much still alive. It was like she was connected to my mother's soul. And my mother, I don't know if she ever quite got it, but we'd watch TV. She'd laugh hysterically, almost in a self-knowing way. But for me, it helped me to understand my mother and to laugh at a lot of tragedy and a lot that was very sad. And so I had that great understanding. So the point of this story, I'm going to flash forward quite a bit. Actually, I'm going to flash forward before something happened. I told you how she got me through my childhood. Well, this is flashing forward to after I lived in Los Angeles, and this was around 1991. And without going into a lot of personal stuff, it was a sort of a crisis for me, a very low, sad time in my life. And at that time, it was announced Carol Burnett was going to revive her variety show. And she was going to shoot it on Stage 33 at CBS, the exact same studio where she did the original show. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was actually going to get to see Carol Burnett. I was going to get to see her in the audience and everything. So I went down there. You have to stand in line like 2 hours or so to get into one of these shows, but I got in. It was amazing. And she came out, did her question and answer just like she did back in the 70s. And I can tell you that woman makes a point that everybody in the audience gets their question answered. Even if it goes on 45 minutes, they would later edit it down. But that's who she was. She made sure everybody got acknowledged. I was too shy. Yes, me. I was too shy to stand up to ask a question. But I went to 5 of the 6 tapings before it got canceled. And on one of the episodes, I was sitting directly behind the man who was asking the question. So I've got a recording of me on CBS 1991 attending the Carol Burnett show. And I looked at myself and I'm like, I'm just looking at her. I looked at my eyes. I had such adulation for her. And you could just see the love, but I was too scared to stand up. So anyway, I went to 5 of the 6 tapings of her show. It got canceled. It just didn't work. And sadly, the variety show is kind of a dead format. And even the great Carol Burnett could not revive the variety show. So it didn't last. But I thought she got me through my childhood, all my trauma and everything. Now, as an adult, here she is in physical form, and she's still doing it for me. That healed me so much. That period of my life during those 2 months or so, those tapings, when I was so low, literally the only thing I had to look forward to was Friday afternoons going down there to get in line and watch a show being taped. So it was just like the old days when I was a kid waiting for Saturday nights to watch it on television. And it was almost like the glass screen, like Alice through the looking glass. I was on one side of the television screen, now I was on the other side, and now it was real. So I had to go to that point to tell 2 off the charts stories. Off the charts. This is now 2003. My mother, my dear beloved mother, who was also very, very troubled. Like I said, she was the real life Eunice. She was dying. And I got to see her 5 weeks before she died back in Virginia. I flew back there. And then for the next weeks, we talked on the phone, but I knew she was fading fast and the end was coming. And she died on a Saturday night. It was 8 o'clock California time. And my father was too devastated to call. So he called my sister. I think she had called him, and he asked her, would you please call Chuck and give the news? I just can't do it. And I knew it was coming. But any of us who have ever lost a loved one, you're never prepared. You're never. And for me, and I'm sure this is true for many others I've talked to, you go to this deeply primal place. It's so primitive. It's just the core of yourself. When I got that news, my mother died, and I was in this weird primal place where you go out of your head. And I just blurted out, I got to talk to Carol Burnett. I was like, what? Did I just say that? And my sister was like, huh? She was like, why'd you say that? It just came out of me. I got to talk to Carol Burnett, because in that primal place, I associated Carol Burnett with childhood comfort and nurturing. And she was the woman who kept me from wanting to kill myself. She kept me going. That's how much she meant to me. So in my deep, deep despair of losing my mother, that was the first thing I blurted out. I got to talk to Carol Burnett. Now, this was a miracle. And it's proof that, a prayer does not have to be like a formal prayer. It can just be a plea, a sincere plea to the universe. And I guess that's what I was doing. And I said, I got to talk to Carol Burnett, because 10 days later, in the Century City Mall here in Los Angeles, guess who I encountered? Carol Burnett. I was just like, oh my God. This had been, I'm going all over the place here because this is an emotional story, but it had literally been my wish at that time, 33 years since I was a child. I had had a 33-year wish to meet Carol Burnett. And I lived in Los Angeles a lot of years at that point. I had met many, many celebrities, but yet she was elusive. I never got to meet Carol Burnett. Now I know why. I guess God or the universe was saving this moment up for the right time, because, and I've got to backtrack here a moment. My father did not want me flying back home after my mother died. And I always thought that's the way it would be. You know how we imagine these scenarios. What's it going to be like when our parents die one day? My mother wanted no funeral. She wanted no memorial service. She just wanted to be cremated, and that's it. She used to say, just strike the match when I'm gone. That's all I want. Just strike the match. And I'm someone who needs closure. I need ritual. And I had none. I had none. It was a time in my life, my finances were such, and my employers at the time did not give bereavement pay. So it's either you work or you don't get paid. So she died on Saturday night. Monday, I had to go back to work. And it was just like being underwater, and it was so hard. And being 3,000 miles away, and this whole week was so rough for me, no closure of any kind. So anyway, I'm going to flash back to Carol Burnett. It was just, I just said, my mother died 10 days ago. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, my mother was the real life Eunice. And Carol Burnett, because this is the woman who created the character, who lived it. She played Eunice like a method actress. She once said in an interview, she never played that character for laughs. It's the jokes were in the writing, but she played it straight. But the audience laughed. But she knew Eunice was a serious, tragic character. So Carol Burnett just said, I'm so sorry. Oh no, her words were, oh no, oh no. And I said, oh no, but it's okay. It's okay. I made peace with my mother. That's just who my mother was. But I just had to tell you what you meant to me and everything. Blah, 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 blah. It went by like a blur, because I didn't want to take too much of her time. That's me, because I've learned celebrity etiquette over the years. You don't be obnoxious with a celebrity, but at the same time, it was so heartfelt, and I was crying. She was crying, and we tightly hugged, and it was just beautiful. And that was my moment with Carol Burnett, my first moment with her. And I realized in that moment, that was my mother's memorial service. That was my mother's funeral. That was my closure with my mother, that beautiful gift of getting to meet Carol Burnett, but meeting her exactly at the time I needed her more than I ever needed her in my whole life. So that was beautiful. I met her a second time years later. It was at a book signing. And that was very positive also. It was very nice. But it was the third time. And I do have some pictures of that. Hopefully we can put these up. It was another book signing. And I went to it. It was the book she wrote about her late daughter, Carrie, which is very moving in itself. But it was a long line of people, everybody there, just like me, so in love with Carol Burnett. And I was fine. And I got up to the table, and keep in mind, I had met her twice before and everything. I looked in her eyes. I was so overcome with emotion. This is the woman who saved my life. And I was looking in her eyes. And again, you just blurt things out. And I said, I'm alive because of you. And Carol, this was a book signing. You expect something heavy like this. I just said, you just don't know what you meant to me. You kept me alive. You kept me going. I used to dream through you. I knew everything was going to be okay because of you. Now, this was like something my 12-year-old self have scripted. She took both of my hands and she started just tenderly rubbing my hands. And she started crying. And then she was not just saying that, she meant she put her hand on her heart. And she said, I want you to know you have just honored me. This is my honor. And she repeated it for him, said, this is my honor. And then she held my hands longer. We talked a little bit longer. And then I had to move on because we had all these people in line and everything. But she said, you know that you have honored my life. This has been my honor. And I went out to my car and I couldn't even drive. I couldn't leave the parking lot. I sat there for 30 minutes just stunned. Did this really happen? It felt like a dream. It was almost exactly as I visualized it as a kid. And I got that big wish. And anyway, those are my Carol Burnett stories. And I hope I haven't gone too long here because I need to introduce some people here. Shall we start with Joyce Pietras of Mystic Soul Insights? She has done Carol Burnett's chart. And we also have my other dear beloved friend. These two ladies have become like family to me. Pam of Pamona.Remembers, who has some wonderful things to share with us also. And Joyce, so we start with you. You have done Carol Burnett's chart. Hi, Joyce. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Chuck. I'm here to do Carol Burnett's natal chart, and it's quite the chart. So she was born on April 26th. It would have been what,
1933.
33.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been today. We're filming on the 27th, so that would have been, it was yesterday.
Yes.
And she was born with Sun in Taurus and Moon in Taurus, where it's exalted. And she was also born with her rising sign in Pisces. So looking at her chart, it means that with a ascendant in Pisces, Neptune is her ruler. And so I looked over and I found where Neptune was. And Neptune is in her 6th house of everyday activities and her health. And it's also conjunct her Mars on one side and Jupiter on the other. So there's a big conjunction there, 3 planets. So looking here, it looks like she's got her Venus in Aries in her 1st house. She's very energetic. She's very thoughtful. She's very emotional with that Pisces ascendant, and then it goes into Aries. And then in her 2nd house, she's got Taurus. And that's where her sun is. Her sun is conjunct her Venus. And that's great. And then her moon is conjunct her Chiron in the same house. So her 2nd house of how she makes her money, she's going to be making her money a loving way. Venus conjunct the sun in Taurus is just wonderful because Taurus's ruler is Venus. And this just makes her even more lovely. I will go back a little bit about that. Her 3rd house is empty. It's Gemini, and that would be her brothers and sisters and whatnot. Her 4th house of the house she grew up in is in mostly a little bit of Gemini, mostly Cancer. Then in her 5th house, she has Pluto, and it's in Cancer. Her 6th house, of course, has got the Mars, Neptune, and Jupiter conjunction. Her 7th house is Libra. She likes to have balanced relationships. She likes balance in all of her partnerships, her marriage, her whatever partnership she has. And then her 8th house is Scorpio. No planets in there either. Then she's got her 9th house in Sagittarius, And her midheaven is at 25 degrees Sagittarius, going along her 10th house, Sagittarius and Capricorn. So she has high ideals for what she might like to do, and she's willing to work hard for it. The ruler of her midheaven is Jupiter, which is in her 6th house with her Neptune and her Mars. So anyway, going on to her 11th house, she's got Capricorn there and Aquarius. She has Saturn there in Aquarius. And this shows that she has the ability to organize large groups of people.
Yeah.
So they're her friends. She treats them like her friends. She's able to organize them. And that was one of the big things about who she was. In her 12th house, she has her part of fortune in Pisces, conjunct her North Node in Pisces. This woman was dedicated to commitment, and she was all about self-sacrifice. So I looked a little bit more. I'm going to go into these things. This woman has so many things where, like that sun conjunct in Taurus, her sun says that she was able, it's a deep bridge, a cavalier bridge across a deep gorge. That's the kind that kind of swings. And she can conquer separatenesses through group cooperation. And then the Venus being there at 7, the woman of Samaria at the well. This is meeting of traditions from past ages in a creative spirit, painting the future. It's a new quality of beginning.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And so then she's got that moon conjunct Chiron. And the moon is about collective enjoyment. And Chiron is about peaceful adaptation to the collective needs. So many of the things that she's got in her chart are about collectivity, about balance, about working with other people, able to organize groups. Then we look at the big conjunction over here. And it's Jupiter is the root power. It's aristocracy. She has an aristocratic family background, and she might not know that, but somewhere she does. And she's able to probably draw on that in some of her caricatures that she does.
Definitely.
Yeah, and her Neptune is about child consciousness. The potential of imitation. Yeah. And that's the ruler of her chart. So as she was observing all these things in her young life, maybe taking from her ancestors that she didn't even know about, she was able to make imitations of them just in a childlike way that made us all laugh.
If I may interject there, Carol Burnett, as a child, used to go to the movies all the time. This was back in the 1940s, 50s. She'd go to the movies with her grandmother, and she said she used to emulate, like she'd watch Betty Grable, or she'd watch Tarzan. That's where the Tarzan yell first came from. You're so right. She used to imitate these people, and they became part of her. And when you mentioned about her being regal aristocracy, look, remember when she used to play Queen Elizabeth? She'd play these elegant regal characters, and then she'd play someone like Eunice or Zelda. Yeah. She had that going on. And I also want to say quickly about organizational skills. That show was like a mini Broadway musical. They had to put together every week. They had 4 days, musical numbers, dance numbers, comedy. They had a full piece orchestra. They had a whole troupe of dancers, ensemble, guest stars. Carol Burnett had to organize all that and make everybody feel at ease. And she had to be the leader. And look what they turned out. So I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted you to have your time to talk.
Oh yeah, well I'm getting there. She also had her Mars in that conjunction of Neptune and Jupiter.
Uh-huh.
And the Mars is all it says that she had. It's that degree is about two guardian angels. She had two
Yeah.
guardian angels available to strengthen all of those conjunctions. Anything
Hmm.
that she wanted to do, they were there to help her.
Well, yes. And if I
That
may
was
interject,
really cool. Yeah, go
Carol
ahead.
talked about this. She mentioned in her autobiography how this help will come out of nowhere. There was, she was very poor growing up. They didn't have a lot of
Mhm.
money. She wanted to go to UCLA to study drama, and she didn't have the $50 she needed. I hope I have this correct. I think it was the registration or something. She didn't have it. She didn't know where she was going to get it from. And she knew nobody in her family had that kind of money. She didn't know anybody, but yet there was an envelope in her mailbox with her name, just her name written on it. And there was a $50 bill inside. And she said, I know it didn't come from my family. I do not know where that came from. And there's the other story of a man who saw her perform at, I think it was a showcase or something. And to this day, she's never given his name. But he said, you're wonderful. What would it take? How can I help you? And she said, well, I need to go to New York because I want to be on Broadway. He's, how much do you need? And he said, well, it would cost me about $1,000. And he said, I will give you I will loan you the money on the condition that you pay it back and when you can the next few years. And when you become famous, you help others and you never tell my name. So anyway, I just had to, that's two
Paying it
examples.
forward, paying
Yeah,
it forward. That is
that's
wonderful.
it's done.
Going along, her midheaven,
Uh-huh.
what she's known for, it's that says a consecration to an ideal.
Mhm.
When people think about Carol Burnett, they think of someone that's got high ideals
Yeah,
and is very, you know, would never break anything to lower that.
yeah,
Um, she's got all the people there. She's got her North Node exactly conjunct her part of fortune in the 12th
uh,
house at 5 degrees of Pisces, which is all about dedication to community service for
yes.
herself and the collective. So there we go again. So this
If I,
woman, she was just she had creativity coming out of her pores. She had help from angels. She had
yeah,
her positions just perfect so that what her goal was to help the community, to
yeah,
help others, to self-sacrifice if she had to
hmm,
have that all come along. And with that self-sacrifice and commitment to her community, she's been on the right path for a long, long
yeah.
time.
If I might
Yeah.
just say, I've met many, many famous people. Only twice have I ever looked in one of these celebrities' eyes and felt I was in the presence of someone angelic. One was Jimmy Carter. I looked deep in his eyes. I believe me, I got that hit. The other was Carol Burnett. And I've looked deep in her eyes, and it's the same thing. It's just like this is like a very high, elevated soul, but very humble, very much the salt of the earth, humble as can be, but a elevated angel in a human body. That's I just wanted to throw that in. I didn't mean to cut you off what you were
Hey,
saying.
no, no, that's wonderful. I'm glad you did, Chuck. You know, she's all about that moon, and the Chiron is all about collective enjoyment.
Yeah,
Something that the collective. How many people did she reach during those her time for her shows?
huge
So
difference.
many, huge crowd, huge people.
Yeah,
I
I'm not the
watched
only
it.
one.
I loved it. I love to watch
Oh
her
yeah,
shows.
yeah. I know I'm not the only one whose life she saved. I know that. I have talked to so many people who have their own Carol Burnett stories and experiences. This is a high elevated soul who came to Earth. Like Lucy, she found her medium in television. Television's like this great communication device that went into people's homes.
Right.
Us. And you know what's
So
amazing?
I can see why she was so special to you, Chuck.
Yes.
She is just a very special person, and I hope she had a wonderful birthday.
I hope so.
91st birthday. I hope she
Ninety
enjoys
first,
it.
and she's
91st.
so you watch her on talk shows. I just saw her in something the other night. Her mind is still there. Her comedy. I mean, she's maybe getting a little frail, but otherwise everything is still there. It's like the universe is saying, Carol, you still got more stuff to do. You need to hang around here longer. Yes, we love her. Oh, Joyce, sometime I'd love to see how my chart compares to hers. Maybe that's a future show or so.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
But
Well,
for today, we're just honoring Carol Burnett, and
yes,
what a
are.
wonderful person.
Oh, this has been
Just
beautiful,
love her.
Joyce. Is there anything else you'd like to add to what you just said, or you
Oh,
feel you
I think I've said it all. I mean, I don't
have
know. I was
to?
looking around and saying, is there anything else that I haven't said? I
Well,
just,
we're still recording here. We'll get back if you think of something, but I guess for now, I should just say thank you. I love you dearly. I appreciate you being here. And we should now go to Pam of Pomona.Remembers. I'm anxious to hear what Pam has to say about all of this. Hi,
thanks.
Hello, Chuck.
hi,
How are you
Pam.
doing?
Hello, my dear friend. Oh,
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's been a trying week, but I tell you, whenever I'm in the presence of you two ladies, you just feel like my family. And I've said this to you privately, I'll say it publicly. Every time we talk and I see your beautiful art behind you and I see your beautiful colors and the energy of your home, it resonates to me. And I know that's going to resonate to all of your viewers too. But it was your idea, actually, that we talk about Carol Burnett and how she's
Yes.
affected us. Please tell us all. How has she affected you?
Well, I was a little girl who moved around a lot,
Yeah.
and I moved 9 times in the first 10 years of my life.
Oh,
And I lived in 2 different countries and 3 different
yeah.
provinces, and
Very
I
little
was
stability.
always the new girl, always the new girl. And so Carol Burnett, like I had television. I had my family unit and I had television. And sadly I used to get bullied a lot for being the new girl, but I found out from watching Carol Burnett that you can be silly and you can make people laugh and it can help diffuse some sticky situations
Yeah.
if you're ever in them. So she taught me that it was okay to be silly, that it was okay to play pretend. The thing that I also loved and that I learned from Carol was when she did her talks at the beginning of the show, I was like, "Oh, that's a whole person who's pretending." Because when the
Yeah.
Carol Burnett show was on, like I was born in 1974, okay? So her show ran to 78, so I had about a 4. So from 0 to 4, that's what my impression of Carol Burnett was the Carol Burnett show and that variety show.
Yeah.
And I just was like, "Oh, you can play pretend. This lady is playing pretend and this is fun, and you can tell stories by playing with your friends and being silly." So, and that's a huge thing for children's development actually is
Yeah.
playing pretend. We learn so much through play. Our brains develop and we learn through play, and she just showed us how to do it. She showed us how to do it
Yeah.
in such a beautiful and fun way. And, I was always just completely immersed in her face. Like all of her little things, I was always staring so closely at the little
Yeah.
tells, the little things, and watching. I was like, "Is tonight the night that Carol's gonna break? Is she gonna lose it tonight? Like, is she gonna start laughing or not?" Because
Yeah.
I was always so impressed by her able to hold her ability to hold it together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But my true, like, whoa, Carol moment was when she played the beautiful, and this is why I dressed up like this, beautiful Miss Hannigan in the movie Annie in 1982. I remember going in and seeing her singing, and she's in that like negligee. And I was like, and she's walking around, and I could see her, and I was like, "Whoa, Carol, this is a whole other side of
Yes.
her that I didn't see. And because I think because it was on the screen and
Uh,
it was even more textured and filled with color and
yes.
it just made me just drawn in. And then her performance with Bernadette Peters and Tim Curry, is that
Yeah.
correct? Yes, amazing, amazing. And then just she just there's a few people in this world that I will say like they helped me be a better person in this world. Carol Burnett, Mr. Rogers,
Hmm.
were my two
Uh-huh.
biggest
Yeah.
influence. Oh, Bob Ross. I'll
Yeah.
add Bob Ross to that as well.
Yeah.
PBS. PBS was
Yeah.
where I grew up, but that, and the other thing
Oh.
too was the Carol Burnett show was when I got to spend time with my dad, when I
Uh-huh.
got to um sit with him quietly. I had to be
Yeah.
quiet because we had to listen, but we could laugh together, we bonded with one another, and my mom and dad could feel okay that it was all
Yeah.
right with me. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna see anything violent or whatever. I mean, there's people yelling,
Yeah.
but I knew that was pretend. I knew it was acting.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about Carol Burnett, and I've been seeing
Oh.
her on television.
Yes.
Like she is so quick, she is so smart, and she is all together there. Like I saw her with Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and all
Yes.
of the rest, and she just holds her own.
She
And she's a
does.
woman that I aspire to just
Yeah.
continue trying to be as good as her.
Well,
Right.
she sets the bar high in a
Does.
humble way of how we should all just be as human beings. And
I
she's
agree.
kindness and dignity and respect for others. But so
Yeah.
many things. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking. And just, oh, and I love your cup, by the way. That's beautiful. Is that a peacock? That's
It's
beautiful.
Peacock.
So many things, which, because, I got to watch her mainly as a child and a teenager. So I have those experiences. I consider myself so lucky to have experienced those full hour-long episodes because
Yeah.
now it's all cut up. Those half-hour episodes, or you see individual clips on YouTube. There's a whole other dimension in life to a full hour-long show because it was like a mini Broadway musical, dancers. And she had I think she had a 60-piece orchestra. The dancers, I think it was like 20 dancers. I know I'm getting my numbers wrong. Like I said, guest
I love
stars,
the dancers.
ensemble. It was a big production. And Marlon Brando was a big fan of Carol Burnett. And she didn't know this. He called her on the phone once to talk to her. And he was this is a man who had done like Broadway, Streetcar Named Desire, and so forth. And he was astounded. You put those shows together in 4 days. How did you do that? I I guess that it's just the energy carried them. Carol's
Yeah.
energy, it was divinely done because those shows are impeccable. But I used to love the hour-long episodes. But what you said, Pam, about it's like she gave us permission to always be that little child within ourselves. You
Yes.
recognize as a little child, this grown woman being this silly and outrageous, but at the same time, at the beginning of the show, you saw she was mature, she was together, she was not crazy,
Yeah.
but yet you saw her go off and be these characters. And I think that's always stayed with me. And I got that when you said that playful little child that's still in me all these years later. I think Carol Burnett gave me the permission to do
Yes,
that.
that was her Neptune, the ruler of her chart.
Yeah,
It was
really.
it was the power, the potential of that child consciousness.
Oh my goodness, yes. And Lucille Ball used to say that. She was asked the secret to playing Lucy Ricardo, and she said, "I always played her like a little girl, like a wide-eyed little girl who was just curious about the world and playful. It was like a little girl in a woman's body." And she said, I always believed things like a little girl. So that's why when I do I Love Lucy, there'd be all these outrageous plots, that normally would fall apart. They would be too silly and comical, like comic book. Lucy rooted those in truth and reality. And I think Carol Burnett did the exact same thing with those outrageous characters. They were always rooted in some kind of truth, some kind of love. And so she taught us it was okay. It was safe to be silly, to be a little child in a grown body. And we saw her
Mhm.
be peaceful and relate to people. And, you know, they did a beautiful special last year for Carol's 90th birthday. A lot of celebrities came out, major stars came out to pour their love out to her. Steve Carell even said, Carol, we know this is going to embarrass you, but we're going to lay it on thick tonight. Get ready. And Cher came out. And Cher had some wonderful stories to tell because she did a variety show with Sonny at the same time as Carol Burnett back in the 70s. They were both,
Yeah, I love those shows.
their sound stages were actually side by side, you know, so they saw each other all. And Cher was saying, because she was new to all this, she said she would watch Carol Burnett and the way Carol treated her fans. And Cher said, I learned from you how to treat my fans. I do it in my own way, but I learned about kindness and respect and dignity and love from you, and to always give that to others. And Cher told another funny story. Might as well tell it now. She and Carol Burnett were the exact same dress size. And the great Bob Mackie did all those wonderful gowns and all those funny costumes and everything. He had to do something like 120 costumes a week. You want to talk about how amazing? And he was assigned to do the Sonny and Cher show. And their show was just starting out, and they didn't have much of a budget for clothes. So he would go over to Carol's closet and secretly take clothes out, gowns and things, and loan them to Cher. And even some of Carol's comical outfits, he would recycle them for, you know, he would use them on both ladies, but add little different touches and stuff. And I've seen photos of the women wearing the same costumes. Even the wigs sometimes were interchanged.
That's
So
so
that's
cool.
there. Isn't that cool? And when you
Well,
mentioned Annie, I just want to throw that out real quick. Carol grew up loving movie musicals, and it had always been her dream to do one day. And it was between her and Bette Midler to play Miss Hannigan. As much as I love that, Carol got that part. And she got to be directed by the great John Huston. And there's that story. Well, I should let you tell it, Pam, about her chin. It's a funny
Oh,
story about how she had the surgery. And
yeah.
she did it after production. You know, her
Yeah.
daughter had surgery. She had the same misalignment of the jaw. And the oral surgeon said, well, you have the exact same thing, and I could do this for you. When do you want to do it? And she said, now. Let's do it now. Let's do it. So 3 months later, when they were filming Annie, oh my God, I meant for you to tell this, but it's okay. All right. You know, I'm very enthusiastic.
You're so excited, Chuck. I love it.
I love this lady so much. And anyway,
I
she
know.
was in a dilemma. She said, John, I just had this cosmetic surgery. Now I have my chin, and
Yeah.
our shots aren't going to match. So they had to refilm a number. The Easy Street number was originally a big over the top number where they had like circus elephants and carnivals and bands playing, and they were Easy Street, walk the street. And
Yeah.
John Hughes watched the film and he said, this is just too overdone. It's too much. He said, what this number needs to be is intimate and small. So he called Bernadette Peters and Tim Curry and Carol Burnett back and said, we need to reshoot the number, but I don't want to do it now where it's just in the orphanage and you're sliding on the banisters and going up the steps. Let's keep it simple. And Carol said, but what am I going to do about my chin? And John Huston thought for a long time. He said, okay, Miss Hannigan is very determined and she has her chin out now. I should let
There
you
you
add to
go.
it.
There you go. Yeah.
I want you to tell your stuff, your stories, you know.
Oh, well, it was just basically that, just watching her tell those stories about like the chin and how she's sharp, she's sharp, she's sharp. Like she just inspires me to be a good woman.
Yeah. You know, it's something Carol Burnett said. She said, we should all be ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
All of us. That's the golden rule. We be ladies and gentlemen. And I saw for myself how she just treats you with such respect and such earthiness. And the fact that
that was just part of her ideal. You know,
Yeah.
she had that consecration to an ideal. That's who she was. That was her personification. You know, your 10th house is who you put out to the public. And that was her. That was her. And not only that, but she was She was a creative genius.
Very much so.
She could operate at two levels, just like those two angels. She could operate at two levels. She could direct and act and do this and that,
Yeah.
organize people. She had so many one. She still does, I'm sure, but she's not doing it right now. But that's what she
Well,
used. She
you're
used
right.
everything that was available to her to make other people's lives uh, flourish
Yeah.
and enjoy, and all that collective enjoyment of being so funny, being
Yeah.
so true to other people, her true self right there. You got to
Oh,
see all of it.
She brought
yeah.
buoyancy and laughter into our lives.
Buoyancy.
She
That's a
brought
good.
Yeah,
buoyancy and
That's what she
laughter.
still does
Yeah.
right in the moment. It's such joy to talk about this woman, and just it's like I can even feel her energy with us right now. I don't know
She's
if you feel.
just fantastic.
It's like I think she's here with us in a strange way, or at least she's
Well, it's
her
because
little
of
ear
our,
buzzing
it's
a little.
our, yeah,
You know this.
it's our love.
Oh, and I'm not in the, but this is how the story behind her ear tuck.
Yeah, for
Her
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 grandmother.
her grandmother. Well, this is when Carol
for being high.
was doing the Gary Moore show. That was her first big break. She was a player on that show, like the way Vicki Lawrence and
Lawrence.
Harvey.
Yeah.
She was a supporting player on the Gary Moore show, and she said that's where she learned how to treat people. And because Gary Moore was so kind to his cast and so generous, and many times he would say something like, "Oh, this is a funny joke, but why don't you give this to Carol or give this to another person instead of me?" And I can tell you in Hollywood, that's almost unheard of with all the star egos and things. But I understand
Mm.
Carol was exactly like that. She'd say, "Give this joke to Tim Conway. Harvey could say this and make it better than me." And she said sometimes she did not mind playing a supporting role and letting her other cast members shine and be the star, because she never forgot she was the
Gotta
star of
give
the
it
show.
to her. What
Purity,
a wonder.
ferocity, a spirit. But she learned anyway. She had a very eccentric grandmother. I'm sure a lot of that eccentricity filtered down to Carol, and she used it in characters. And she called her Nanny, and Nanny said, "Well, I want you to say goodbye to me every week on the show." See, the show was done live in those days, and she was like, "Nanny, I can't do that. I'm not allowed." And she said, "Okay, well, come up with something. I'm going to tug my ear, and that's going to me being say goodbye to you at the end of the show."
Yeah.
And that's their little system, and she always kept that. And there was a funny story. An interviewer once measured her earlobes, and sure enough, this earlobe was like a bit of a centimeter longer than the other.
And all that pulling.
It's so cute.
Yeah, I managed to find a really cute old, like, from that show, her doing a whole act based on the story of that, and she added in, well, then my cousins needed me to say good night to them, and then my mom, and then so she was like doing all this whole thing in order to like say goodnight to anybody. So they made a whole act out of that story. And it was really cute. It just came across my YouTube. I was like,
I
because
know
I've been
that's
doing research,
adorable.
and yeah, it
I
was
don't
really
know if I've
cute.
seen that myself. I may have seen it
Oh,
about it. They're
I'll
just
send
so
it to you.
thank you. They're just like
Yeah.
thousands of those little moments.
Yeah.
And I was even saying a lot of younger people now know her through YouTube.
Yes.
She's getting her audience now. But a lot of those old variety shows don't live on. Hers is one of the few that has. At one point, I think it was Time Life or something, they were doing these box sets of the complete uncut hour-long episodes. And over the years, I managed to buy enough of those where there were, I think, 270 episodes altogether, and I've got 115 uncut episodes, full hours. Cost me a fortune, because you know how overpriced those things are. I didn't care. I wanted to have those again. And sometimes I just put one on my iPad or something. It just lifts me up so high. That energy is there. And it's something I associate with childhood. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That
you know the story about her and her nanny. She's told this. They were so poor. I think they were on welfare. at one point. Food stamps, welfare, wherever the government assistance there was, they just had to survive. Carol's parents, both of them died of alcoholism. Her father died very young. Her mother was still alive, but her mother just could not take care of her. So that's why her grandmother had to assume responsibility. And she said she and her nanny used to go to the Sunset Strip to this drugstore. I think it was Thrifty Drugs or something at the time. And it's so funny. They'd go to the counter and Nanny would take all the napkins. She'd take all the silverware off the counter and put it in her purse. She'd get all the ketchup packets, the salt and pepper, and they didn't stop there. Then they'd go in the ladies' room and go in each stalls and take all the toilet paper from the stalls and fill up her big purse. And Carol said, well, we were set for the week. And she was telling this on Larry King, and she said, oh my God, I'm probably going to have to write a check to Thrifty now. And admitted this. Oh, Pam, tell me. I didn't mean to keep interrupting you. I'm just spewing all these stories, but I know you have things, more ways she's influenced your creativity, your own acting, your art.
Well, yeah, I took acting like when I was a little girl, I was very quiet and shy, and like my spirit guides when I was in grade 8, they insisted that I took acting from grade 8 to 12 because they knew that it was going to help me in this life somehow. I didn't know what was up,
I
but
know that.
I just followed directions,
Yeah.
and she was one of the ones who inspired my, I love improv. I love creating.
Yeah.
In high school, having those times with my classmates to be able to grow up and try on different characters and see what that felt like and be like,
Yeah.
I like that about that one, but that part I'm not so keen on.
Yeah.
So maybe, you get to try on these different personas to see how you feel. And then it's like you can take what you like and leave what you don't,
You make it your
and
own.
you make it your own, and it helps you to empathize with other people. It helps you with all of these different things to get to know the person that you're across the stage from, and be able to think on your toes and be sharp
Yes.
and be paying attention and have your head on a swivel. It's like all of these amazing gifts that were given with the gift of acting, with those classes, with that teacher. And it was because of people like Carol Burnett that made me know that that's a possibility, that that's a thing in the world, something that I'd like to do because I love making people laugh.
Well, that was me. That
Yeah,
was me
I
when
love making people laugh.
we used to have a talent show every year. And I always use that as an opportunity to write a Carol Burnett type skit that I could feature myself playing a character like her. And I would enlist friends. I would beg people, please be in my skit. Please be in my skit with me. We play this. Like one year I wrote a Eunice skit, and I had a friend who could actually do Eunice. She actually could do it. And I got another friend to play Mama, and I was going to be Ed. And then they both dropped out at the last minute on me. We didn't get to do it. They had stage fright, didn't do it. But I would beg people every year to do this because I just hungered like you to do those Carol Burnett type show skits. And I later did study acting for real, including with the great Dee Wallace, who starred in E.T. I've been lucky in that respect. But my one chance I really, really got to do a Carol Burnett type thing was more than 30 years ago. And it was a theater in Agora Hills owned by Fred Astaire's former daughter-in-law, Stage Door Theater. And I and a friend convinced her to let us mount a production of a 4-week run, by the way, of a play called Greater Tuna, which had played, I think it played off Broadway, but it was 2 men playing 10 characters each in this little town. The men, the women, the children. It was just about as Carol Burnett as you could get. And it was my dream role to play 10 roles on stage. It was exhausting. We had our dress rehearsals. See, the men who did it off Broadway probably had dressers backstage helping them change in their costumes and wigs and stuff. We didn't have that. We had to do everything ourselves. So we had to make every single rehearsal a full dress rehearsal because we had to practice quick changes because sometimes there'd be like 45 seconds between characters. So
Wow.
we had a screen on stage that we could go behind, and we had behind that screen a table. We had all the wigs lined up on stands. We had all the hats on hooks, the clothes on hooks, all numbered, and so they could be easily assembled. We took out zippers and buttons and put in Velcro so that we could put things on fast.
Mhm.
It was tricky and it was exhausting, but it was exhilarating going out in front of an audience and basically being the male Carol Burnett. And I got these really good reviews for it, and I was so proud of it. And it was in a way like in a small way, big way, got a big wish answered for me that I got to do that at least once in my life. And you're so correct about theater, because we come from similar mindsets, the artistic children, the way our brains work and all. And theater was very good for me because it incorporated artistry and creativity. You do have to bring in that left brain element. You have to memorize lines. You have to be able to walk, hit your marks. There's a lot of technical stuff in theater with the creativity, and you got to marry the two together. So it's so good for discipline, memorization, relating to people, and for kids like us who were shy, it forces you out of your shell. There's no room to be shy in the
Absolutely
theater.
does.
Maybe you can use that vulnerability for your character, but still you're doing this under the lights in front of a whole bunch of people in seats and all. And I just loved when you said that. And I think in my own way, I not think, I know Carol Burnett inspired me to do all that. And I love hearing that she inspired you to do that.
Yes. Yes, she's one of the great ones, and I appreciate her for all of her work and
Me
staying
too.
true to herself and her path, doing that thing that is inside of her that we all grew from and learned from.
Mhm.
And so I would love to hear your story about we're bringing Lucy back, the Carol Burnett and Lucy Flower story, please, Chuck, if you don't mind.
Oh,
Maybe we
yes.
can close the show with that.
Tell this. And, I'm a big believer, of course, in past lives, connections. I devoutly believe Lucy, Carol, and I have had some major lifetimes together. The way they've affected me, and I firmly believe Julie Andrews has been in there, because as a child, I just adored Julie Andrews. I actually had a crush on her after I saw Mary Poppins, and I hear Julie and Carol have this 62-year friendship. I even did a painting of the two of them a year or two ago as Eunice and Mary Poppins, because I figured if they're best friends, well, that it only makes sense in an alternate universe. So are Eunice and Mary Poppins. They're best friends. I did that painting. But anyway, Lucy and Carol had a strong, strong friendship. And I think that's so right. I think the two queens of comedy, the two greatest television comedians ever, and they were best friends. That is so right. And Carol Burnett, of course, watched I Love Lucy back in the 50s, adored her. And it was when Carol was doing her first big off-Broadway musical, which was Once Upon a Mattress. It was a takeoff on The Princess and the Pea, and it had a lot to do with making Carol a star. Gary Moore show, and then doing Broadway, or I think it was off Broadway, the play. And it got rave reviews. The opening night was a huge success, and celebrities started coming. And it was the second night someone whispered to Carol in her dressing room, "Lucy's out in the audience." And Carol Burnett said she was more nervous than she was on her opening night. She went to the curtain, backstage. The curtain was drawn, and Carol just peeked through the curtain. And in like one of the front rows, she saw this big orange hair sticking up. It's, oh my God, it's Lucy. Lucy's going to
Mhm.
walk tonight. And Carol somehow got through her performance. Lucy went backstage, and Lucy just said, "You are wonderful. You're incredible." And she always called her kid because she was a lot younger. And she said, "Kid, if there is anything I can do to ever help you, you contact me." And Lucy meant it. "I will do anything I can to help you." And Carol was just blown away, and they struck up this friendship. And flash forward to it was 1965. CBS wanted to give Carol Burnett a special. This was before the variety show, one of those variety specials. And they said, "We will do it on the condition you get one big name guest star." That's our condition if we give you a variety show, because Carol's name wasn't that big at the time. And so Carol took a deep breath and called Lucy up and said, Lucy, I'm going to do a variety special. And Lucy cut her off and said, when do you want me? When do you need me? And so Lucy did the variety special. I believe it's in its entirety on YouTube. It is fabulous. Those two women working together. There's this, I think it was the first time Carol Burnett ever did the char woman, the cleaning woman character. Mm. And it's a skit with Lucy and Carol in those same costumes. And it's at the William Morris agency, the big talent agency. And it's late at night and they're cleaning women. And they're going in there and they're going through all the papers and everything, and they're acting like they're negotiating big Hollywood deals and stuff. And then they launch this musical number, and I remember watching it, and I was 5 years old, and I never forgot it. And I was so excited when it turned up on YouTube. I thought, it's just the way I remembered it. It was so burned into my consciousness. So anyway, Lucy used to do guest appearances on the Carol Burnett show. Carol used to do appearances on the Lucy show. Here's Lucy. And they just had this adoring friendship. And I remember Johnny Carson once asked Lucille Ball, who do you think is the best comedian out there other than you? And Lucy said, oh, Carol Burnett. And Lucy said, Carol Burnett is far more talented than me. And she goes, that girl can do anything. And I am in so awe of her. So anyway, Lucy used to send Carol Burnett flowers every year on her birthday, April 26th. 1989, 35 years ago. It was a few days earlier, Lucy had a heart attack, had to be rushed to Cedars-Sinai. And boy, I could tell stories there, but that's a whole other show. She had a heart attack. They had to do a partial heart transplant. I think they had to replace her aorta and the lower part of her heart. It was a big, big operation. And it was later admitted by the doctors. They normally would not have done that on a 77-year-old woman. But the fact that it was Lucille Ball, they were just doing anything they could to save her life. And it looked like she was going to be okay. And of course, she died. Her aorta ruptured on the morning of Carol Burnett's birthday. And Carol Burnett was just devastated. And it was later in that afternoon, there was a knock at the door. It was a delivery man with a bouquet of flowers. And there was a card. It was a handwritten note Lucy had written the day before. Happy birthday, kid. I love you. So,
oh, wow. Oh, man.
Carol got these flowers from Lucy. And Carol Burnett's quite intuitive. I don't know. I have a feeling she's psychic. She's never really talked about it, but she's very intuitive. And she said, there is not a day that goes by I do not feel Lucy's energy with me. She's always with me. But there was that story about the flowers. And anyway, that's the little story. And anything
Thank you,
like
Chuck, so much for that. These are things that I would never know if I didn't talk to you about them.
I can keep talking.
You know what? I think you could be right about that. I think she could have been a little bit psychic, because with Pisces on her ascendant, and Neptune being her ruler, and Neptune being in her everyday activities, with Jupiter, which expands things, I think she was quite intuitive. Yeah, quite intuitive, if not, getting messages.
I don't
know. Yeah, she also had those two angels talking to her. She had spirit guides as well.
Yes. And I bet
you in the very beginning.
I bet.
And it was always big, easy, grand trines. She had wonderful grand trines in her chart. So anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I bet Lucy is a third guardian angel now for her.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I've said this many times. I know people think I'm a nut, but I'm convinced she's one of my biggest, if not the biggest, spirit guide. I feel her every day in my life. Carol Burnett has said she feels Lucy every day in her life. And I'm even looking behind. I see a heart behind you. Do you see yes, I see the heart. You know what, Pam? Lucy is with us right now. Oh God, yes. I didn't even see the rest of that. That's incredible. She's with us, and I think Carol Burnett in an energetic way is with us right now. because I think we have all come from a very pure. Oh my God,
When
the
darkness,
light, and Lucille Ball's name, Lucille, translates to mean carrier of light.
when the darkness surrounds you, be the light. You are the
Yeah.
light.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, these are some beautiful cards. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Oh God, the energy feels so high right now.
We're
I think that
so
it's,
lucky to be alive at this time
yeah,
when these ladies were are being their
yeah.
best.
Well, they are. They are. You know, I've joked with people. Yeah, I'm not thrilled to be the age I am right now, but at the same time, I'm grateful to be the age I am. But I'm grateful that I was young when I was. When I Love Lucy was long before I was born, but I did get to watch the Lucy show in prime time. Here's Lucy. I got to watch Carol Burnett when they were around at the peak of their
Yeah,
careers. And it's so beautiful that this work lives on, that
yeah.
it's all on tape and film and now it's on YouTube and stuff, but it's still very alive and it's all encoded and it's just still lifting spirits.
This is just this conversation the spirit guides just sort of showed me the your life is like a little pebble in a pond and it ripples out through all
Yeah,
time and
I agree.
space, and this woman Carol has just continued to throw her little pebbles in the pond
Yeah.
and made these ripples throughout all of time and
Oh,
space, and
she threw me a pebble.
like, you know what I mean? Like she's
Yeah.
just showed us how to be a good person and to
Yeah.
make a difference in the world
I
just
don't know
by
what I would
being
have done.
yourself.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have done had there not been a Carol Burnett in my life.
Mhm.
Just in the beginning, the television, later in life, I would have figured a way to maneuver out, maybe not, but she made it a lot easier
Yeah.
and brought
So
joy
be
and brought
careful.
love.
Make sure that you're careful with how you put your energy out there because you don't know who you might be touching and changing their life. You don't know.
You don't know.
That's why she's so impeccable with everything that she does, every encounter, because she cares about the difference that she makes. She knows that she has this energy and she does make a difference. That's why she's so careful to show that every person is
Yeah.
deserving of that love and care and respect, no matter
Yeah.
who you are.
That is exactly the vibe I got from her. Just that last meeting I told you about, literally holding her hands, looking in her eyes, putting her hand on her heart. Oh, the exchange of energy between us. I got that. She's very aware of what she has. She's very humble, but she's very aware of what she has. And I think part of that is what Joyce said about the aristocracy background. It's like there's the regalness, but there's also the salt of the earth humbleness that she lives in, but she has access to that higher self. So, yes, she knows she's a great star. She knows she's touched millions of lives, so forth, but there's not a shred of ego about it. It's only
It's a big
like, well,
responsibility.
this is my responsibility and my service. That's
Yes.
from her. I talked with a man. I don't want to violate his privacy, but he used to write for her for one of her latter shows. And because of Los Angeles, I know it's bad stereotypes, but it's also true stereotypes. He said there are just some really cruel, backstabbing people in this town. He said he's worked for some real a-holes, just the beloved stars, but just horrible people in real life. And he said, and I said, well, is there anybody who's good? He said, one person. I've only worked for one big star in this town who has integrity and respect and decency and love, and it's Carol Burnett. She's the one celebrity. She treated me so well. She treated her workers so well. She was not about herself. She was about others. So giving and so loving. And I'm almost reluctant to say this because it is private about her, but he said he felt Carol had a low self-esteem about herself. She didn't, this was many years ago, but he said it was like she didn't get how special she was. She would be like, I don't know why all these people love me so much. And all that. It's like she didn't see herself as a big deal. But that was the humbleness of Carol Burnett, I think. Like, she didn't quite get that, but at the same time, she knew it. And I hope I didn't say something too personal about her, but he shared that. But I think it ties in with the beauty of her soul and her giving. And I think all of us who watched her at the beginning of the show resonated that here's someone just like us. She's insecure just like us. She's humble. She's not always confident about herself, like she comes across, because actors can come across that way, very confident. No, she was very vulnerable, insecure. She had doubts about herself. And I think we get that here. We all
That's
get
what
that.
made her accessible to us and made us
Yeah.
feel like we could do the same thing too.
Yeah. Because that
And
was something.
Pomona and Chuck, can I add something?
Yes.
Pomona, the star, the sun doesn't know it's a star.
No, it
Yes.
doesn't.
That was one of your
No.
readings that you
That's
did.
right. The sun doesn't know it's a star.
Yeah. I was going to throw out something quickly. My acting teacher, Dee Wallace, was all about simplicity on camera because it was camera acting. And actors who've done stage tend to want to be too big. And you watch it on camera and it looks awful. It's horrifying. Camera acting is subtle. It's about what's in your eyes. It's what you're feeling. It's your essence. And Dee used to tell us there's so much you don't have to play because it's already there. It's just in you. And your audience is, give your audience credit that they are intelligent enough to get it without it being shown or told. They are just going to get it here. And I bring that up is because that's what we got from Carol Burnett. We got it here and we knew it. And Carol transmitted that with such strength. It was like this 500,000 watt beacon of light that a little 12-year-old boy like me in a little town in Virginia watching on a 12-inch black and white TV set in my bedroom, who times wanted to just die. And I'd watch her and that energy would hit me and it would fill me up. And it became a part of me. And I think you've said that yourself and Joyce has said it. And I love that the sun doesn't know it's a star. Is that what we said? I'm a little out of my head.
That's it. Yeah, I got it backwards. Yeah,
that works.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to find that thing as well. The sun doesn't know it's a star. I think it's in here.
The sun just is. It just.
But it doesn't know. It's shining. It's putting out all that positive energy and light and whatnot, and it doesn't know it's a star.
Yeah. Well, it's like what
it's not.
It was the last one, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Starborn, and it says even the sun doesn't know it's a star. You were right. You did it. You got it correct.
It's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
That looks like Cher to me.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It does. I just, for the heck of it, grabbed my oracle cards and just pulled I got life force and gifts.
Yep.
That sums it up. We know exactly what those two cards mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that this great life force. It's like, in fact, look at the image on the card, the person standing in the fire and the power flame. Because that's I guess says what I was feeling as a child from Carol Burnett. She was sending a life force to me. She was sending a life force to you. And of course, there's millions of others beside us. It's not like we have an exclusive on this, but these are our personal experiences. And I just cannot ever be too grateful to this woman. And I have been blessed by the angels, by the universe, by God, that I have held hands with her. I've not just held hands, but shared a deeply emotional, personal experience. And she responded with such heart to me, such heart. I feel like I've been graced by an angel. We're all graced by angels, but this was a case of it being physical and real. And it was almost like my personal angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm showing you guys the Milky Way.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Milky Way.
The Milky Way.
All those stars. They probably
Yes.
don't know their stars, you know?
No.
But they're all
No.
following, they're all on the path together.
And
Yeah.
they're just trillions and trillions and trillions of those stars. It's
That's right.
unfathomable for our. God, it's beautiful.
So amazing. This felt good to be
This
able
felt good.
to talk about Carol, and I know we're late. We tried. This is our third take to try to get this all together, but
It's
I think this was beautiful.
I
I
think
I
it's
think
know
we
I
should
beautiful.
all pull our ears and say
yeah, we'll just
goodbye.
say
Yeah.
goodbye
I don't
and
mind the show went over. That's the beauty of YouTube. We can be flexible with our shows. And I think
yeah.
today warranted.
Was it the
There's
left
so
ear?
still say, but we yes, let's tug our little
Is it
ears.
the right or is it the left? Which one was
I'm
it? I
sure,
can't remember.
and I should know this. I think this is the right ear. The right ear is the right ear.
The right is the right?
It's so funny. Me of all people, and I don't know which ear it was. I've got to
I
go
always
back.
thought she did the left, but it's probably has something to do with mirroring.
Yes.
Probably, yeah. I like to believe we're coming from that same humility that Carol Burnett has.
I hope so.
That I believe so. We're coming from love and
Yeah.
integrity, and it's also fun to watch this grow and metamorphosize and grow and evolve. Like we've all done interviews together, and I think we've all seen how, hey, we can take this and make more videos from this. And I think we're seeing paths that we wouldn't have taken any other way.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the hit just as Carol Burnett reached out to a 12-year-old boy watching a little black and white television set and saved his life. If I may say this, I think in a way and I don't want to be audacious or anything, but I'm just thinking through our humility and our love and our creativity, I'm hoping we're going to reach out to people and
That's my hope.
in their own way that they need to be touched. And I hope that's not an audacious thing to say, because I am saying art,
I think it's a good way to want to be in the world, is to make a difference in people's lives for the better.
Yes. I gotta say, I just got a hit because Pam, you and I were talking about how good Carol Burnett looks right now, how her mind is so sharp. It's like the woman doesn't age. It's like she's just as vibrant as ever. I got this hit that she has given so much to all of us, like millions, like in a collective consciousness, that we are all like in this moment, we're sending our love back to her right now. I bet that's why Carol Burnett looks so young and vibrant. She's receiving all this love from millions of grateful people like us. And she gets it like literally every second of the day. And I think that's why her mind is so sharp and why the woman can still perform and do comedy. I think she's going to be around for a lot of years to come.
She put in all of that work, and now she's reaping all of the rewards.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
generation after generation after generation going, you don't know who Carol Burnett is? Well, let me just educate you now. Because it's the must-know person in this world because of what she's brought to us as a collective.
Like what you said, Rogers, I think his work needs to live on forever.
Absolutely.
Look at how many millions and millions of children were transformed by him, who are now adults. They're now grandparents, even probably great grandparents now. That all started with Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what art can do to change and move a soul.
Yes. Art is so important and it should never be diminished.
So all those people that want to take all the arts out of high school, it's like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Well, they're not thinking.
Gosh.
Or they're thinking,
I don't know.
like,
I'm totally against that kind of a just math and science education. I mean, you have to have math and science, but you need other things as well.
If you don't have the arts integrated into that. And I just think, and I said this the other day, we made a joke about how this is our third attempt at the show. The first time our show didn't record and we lost all this wonderful stuff. But I said something about, it's my theory that people like Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, Robin Williams, great comedians, they're great souls who came to this earth with a huge mission, every bit as important as, say, a person who discovers the cure for polio or cancer or brings world peace. they've come here with a mission just as important, because comedy, laughter heals us, it elevates us, it fills us with light and inspiration, as we've talked about for however long we've been talking, and so I consider them just as important.
A word that came to me when Joyce was talking about taking the arts out of school, this little sentence ran through my head, and it's said, it's like a lattice with no flowers.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah, I'm taking an art practitioner course right now, which I won't go into it because we don't have a lot of time, but that's part of what it's about, is giving people a way to express themselves when they don't have the words, or the emotions feel too blocked up, or they feel too scared, too vulnerable to express. They can feel safe making a piece of art, and that art have that energy, can have that emotion, and it frees the person up. I know this for myself with my ADHD, that I've always been someone who's needed to, like when I'm studying, I need to doodle, I need to draw. And I even got in trouble in school a few times for this, where I'd be constantly doodling on my notebooks while the teacher taught. And I had more than one teacher say, "Okay, Chuck, repeat back to me what I just said." And I'd repeat it back word for word. And the teacher would be astounded. "Oh, okay, well, keep doing what you're doing." But I
Not every
knew that
brain is
calmed
built
my
the
mind
same.
to study and absorb.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank
Not
goodness,
every
yeah.
brain is built the same. We
No,
all
no,
have
no.
giftings and things to share. And
Different form
together, when we
of
do
intelligence.
that, we get stronger.
Yes, we do. And hopefully we're going to help others to find their own voices and their own abilities and get stronger as we do these shows and we work together. I think
Well, I
that's a
just
big.
want to tell you that I'm grateful that you were here. I'm grateful that we had our show, and
Me too.
it's been a good experience.
Thank you,
So
Joyce, for
yeah,
all of
Thank you,
your
Joyce.
input.
I thank you so much for being here, Joyce.
amazing how her chart was so much like her, wasn't it? It's like
Yes, I'm not amazed. Yeah, I've seen enough of I've been the recipient of your charts. My friend Anastasia, well, she's our friend now. Anastasia, you've done charts. You did a show where you
thanks for
compared,
sharing.
and
Yeah,
so you never surprised me. Never.
yeah.
You
I just wanted to let you know how important you guys are to me. So thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
it's fully likewise reciprocal and
Yes.
mutual admiration. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we say
And
Did
my,
you know?
goodbye
Did you know?
and give our little ear
my
tucks,
yeah,
or
yeah. And
Yes.
I'm just say quickly, my dear Pam, thank you for being here and
oh,
doing
thank
this. This has meant the world to me. And I always learn from you. I evolve, I grow from you. And it's an honor. Well, a choice too. This goes
of
always. I
course.
learn, you mean a lot to me. So
Thank
I
you.
guess maybe we should say goodbye. So should I do
So,
my whole goodbye for my show and give you? Well,
sure.
we're going to do a little ear tug here. And I'm just going to tell you, please like and thank you for being here. And please like and subscribe my channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. And now let these ladies talk.
Joyce, please.
Uh, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe my channel, Mystic Soul Insights. It's been great. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for spending time with me and my friends. And I am honored to be able to honor this amazing woman in this life. And I hope that if she ever sees it, she knows just how much we love her. And we are
Mm-hmm.
grateful for everything she's given us.
Thank
To
you,
Carol
Carol.
Burnett. Yeah.
I'm so glad we had this time together.
Yes.